This is the third practice quiz for the fourth quiz in Algebra 2 in the second trimester. So problem 1, you want to raise each side to the 1/5 power. So it's the reciprocal power that we're looking at, and that's what's going to, so you actually multiply those powers, and that makes x to the first. Solving for x here, cosine inverse of the square root of 3/2. And that is 30 degrees. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Square each side. You need to do the math out so you're not just guessing. So some people would say, oh, that's 10. Nope, the square root of 10 does not equal 100. And then on this one, to the 5/2 power is what you want. And 1024 is it. Also, on these, a lot of times with these powers, if you'll check to see that the negative works, it does. And that's a little thing that we're going to get into later on, that sometimes the negative works. So I paused the video for a moment there. And it has to do with the fact that you're actually squaring first and then taking the 5th root. So it has to do with the nature of what this means. But negative 1024 also works. Just check to see if the negative works. It does not up here. Okay, and of course it definitely does not there. You can be safe in doing that. Okay, so negative also. I don't think I do that on the quiz, but just check it out when you're dealing with those inverse steps. All right, for h, so we want to multiply both sides by 3. So 3v equals pi r squared h. And now to get h alone, we have to divide by pi times r squared. So the term that contains h is alone on one side. So h is 3v over pi r squared. Okay, then find the value of h if we have this. Okay, so 3 times 112 pi over 3 over pi times 4 squared. So these would drop out, the pi's would drop out. So you're doing 112 over 4 squared, 112 over 16, and that is 7. Okay, solving for r, so we want to isolate the term that contains r on one side. That would be the first step. Now, keep in mind, I haven't been saying this, but you still are checking to multiply to remove parentheses, eliminate denominators, isolate the term that contains the variable, then divide or multiply. Make sure that you know that all of those things are still there. Solve for r. So we would divide by p times t to get the r alone. So r is a minus p over p times t. Now find the value of r if a equals 4620 minus 3000 over 3000 times 9. So make sure you get it all in there correctly. These get substituted in. That seems to be a giant. So 6% interest rate on that. Those seem to be a giant problem substituting in. So we want to solve for y on 7a. So we want to isolate the term that contains it. So 8y equals 56 minus 7x. Then we want to divide by 8 everywhere. So y equals 56 minus 7x over 8. Find the value of y if x equals -8. Over 8. So that looks like 56 plus 56 over 8. And that's going to be 14. Solve v equals 4 pi r squared for r. So we want to isolate the r squared, and then we got to do the inverse with v over 4 pi. So then we got to do the reciprocal of the 2. And that means square root also if you want. Oops. Either way. Find the value of r if v is 100 pi. So those drop, so you have 25 to the 1/2. Well, that's the square root of 25. And that is 5. Okay, tier 3. So again, we want to flip this over. B over A is 4 over 1. And now we've got to match this by multiplying. So this time we got to multiply by 4 on the bottom because we want B over 4A. And that's going to be 1. Okay, number 10, same thing as last time. We're going to multiply the negative y in here. Oops. Let me start again here. Negative 20y minus yx equals d plus 84x. So we do have the terms that contain y on one side, and then we just want to factor out the y. And then we're going to divide by whatever is multiplied. Equals d plus 84x. And depending on what way you took things, you could have had this answer too, either way. But the step of factoring out has to do with the first, I'm just checking to see my answer here. Yeah, I put the negative in front. Has to do with this replicating of the variable. So you kind of see from here to here how we kind of like factored the p back out. So that's what's going on with that. So that you can isolate it, you have to factor it out and kind of go backwards. All right, so I said on this video, I'll actually do completing the square, which that's what you would do. We had this on a couple of problems on a quiz in the first try. So in completing the square, you're welcome to do what I showed earlier too. In completing the square, you got to get a to be 1. So we have y over 2 equals x squared plus 4x plus 3/2. And then we're going to have to subtract over the 3/2. And then you always want to get it, you know, the squared term plus the x term alone on one side. So we're going to take 4 and we're going to divide by 2, and that's 2. And then we're going to square 2. So this is where, you know, I had these different highlighter colors. So the 4 is what's going to get added into both sides here. And then on the next step, we drag and drop. This guy goes in the parentheses there. And then you have to simplify on this side. So this is going to be 8 over 2 minus 3 over 2. So that's going to be 5 over 2. Like so. And so at this point, if you want to eliminate, I'm going to eliminate the denominator as of this point everywhere. So we're going to have y plus 5 equals 2 times x plus 2 squared. And so now you see, to get the y alone, you would subtract the 5. So if you want to do this way, we kind of had something like this the last try with completing the square, you're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to look the vertex up, which would be -2, -5. And then you just put that in, and then the A is 2. This A here, this number here is the same as that number every time. Okay, put the following in vertex form and standard form. So you would have to FOIL this out. So x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus 5. So x squared minus 6x plus 14 after you simplify that. So these are the solutions for the third quiz. I'm sorry, for the third practice for quiz 4 in Algebra 2 in the second trimester.